Hey everyone, how you doing today? Thought I would do a preview of this tank. Now I've got this ready to test and bring into our Reforged Eden playthrough in Excalibur in the Anvil gang. Um, but this thing has been a little. It's been a nightmare to build. It really has been. It's a lot of tweaking. I spent like another bunch of time on like analyzing each block on here, whether it needs to be combat steel or could it be hardened steel. And the whole point is weight reduction. It's been a pain in the butt to deal with. Now this version, the way it'll go to the workshop, I believe, would be without quantum cores, and that's how it sits right now. It doesn't have any quantum cores in here. Now it totally, at least with the stock version, will take 13 quantum cores. So I did drop it back one quantum core, so no big deal there. But here, actually, let me go through and put these quantum cores in. And obviously the interior is done too. Well, it's not to the final level. Like when I release it to the workshop, I need to get like a LCD for the screen over here and some other things like that. And it's yeah, I'll get a little bit more detail into it. And that is the plan at least. So just popping in quantum cores, and I think I need to add in 3 more. And that's kind of, there's basically quantum core banks all over the place to pop these in. And yeah, gotta paint them right too. No, I'm just kidding. You don't need to do that. Actually, it looks fine the other way too, I think. But that's kind of what's going on inside here with the quantum cores. I'm a little iffy on this area yet, but if you get breached here, you would also probably be dead. So, you know, that would be like a complete loss. So that'd suck. But things are separated all over the place. Now, with generators, I left. It needs 8 with the stock load up, but you have 4 additional advanced generators you can add in here. There's 2 banks of these, and they're separated by some. I believe I got that combat steel yet, or did I? No, I must have lowered that back down to hardened steel too. With the frame, I mean, it's kind of a hybrid combat hardened steel frame, and it really took a lot of time to like try to figure that out, and it's probably not perfect. You know, on trying to assess like each block, like, does this really have to be combat steel here? Would it be better served if it was somewhere else? You know, just fixating over it. And to look at some specs here, with the quantum cores installed, which are actually quite heavy, it's 286 tons. Now I played around with a snub nose version of this too, where I cut the front off and got rid of those 4 turrets and added some other more RCS to try to get its speed up, but it really didn't make much of a difference. And RCS are quite heavy as well, so that really sucks. Now in this build, unlike most of my builds, this one's actually running 30 RCS in it. I wanted to have it feel a little bit better, and I did add more thrusters to it as well, so it's got 6 additional of these smaller advanced thrusters on here. I didn't put grates over the back ones. I guess I could, but again, I'm just like freaking out over weight. Weight is your enemy on this, I tell you. But I mean, it's got a lot of thrust power, and basically it can again hit 50 ms strafing. And it can do that forward. It cannot do that backward. So I think it's not bad, but it's not that good. If that makes any sense. Anyway, take this for a spin. Oops, what just happened there? All right, I hit the wrong key. That's what happened. All right, this is how it's behaving. Let me get it up to its height here. It's not a super awesome turner. The 30 RCS is questionable whether or not I really even need those in here. because it adds the weight, which counteracts kind of what they do in the first place and lowers your thrust power. So there's different ways to look at it. And also, as we're circling here, there's this new variant of the MCRN Leviathan by Dragmar 2001 that we'll take a look at as well. Um, so a couple more things on the tank before that, though. My envision on this, and it's a bit of a tinkerer's tank, because I don't know what its like most awesome configuration could be really, but I'm trying to leave it open for tinkering because I'm still in experimental stages myself with it. Um, so basically on the bottom side, it's largely very open over here, and I tried to do some of this stuff lighter weight. Now, like you'll find like that there's combat steel across like the front, but these lower blocks below the turrets, for the most part, I think, but a couple in the back over the interior space, are hardened steel now and not combat steel. It was trying to reduce the weight. I mean, I've got a lot of thrusters on here and whatnot, and it's just like, man, I wish they did more, because everything is just kind of like falls apart. You get to a certain point, and it's like, okay, if you add another thruster or two, give it a little bit more performance. Oh, then you need a little bit more power, so you add that, and then the weight of those parts that you added kind of slow it down, make it turn. I don't know, not as good, or I don't know really what's going on. I haven't really mastered everything in Reforged Eden, I guess, with thrusters. I thought, the layout I've got, trying to get a bunch of big ones on the front and back, that I would get some benefits from turning. And then I even put these way back over here. I didn't really have an option to do that much with those. But yeah, I can't really plug in more. You think, well, you could add some more thrusters here, but that would like run into these thrusters. I guess you could put a fourth one of these thrusters in there, but then they would chain react. So things like that. But I'm trying to keep it as safe as possible. It does have a combat steel firewall here, but it's only a single layer thick. That could be increased, or you could boost up the armament on this. And there's a lot of places that it's kind of lagging on its armament in this form, and it's trying to be lightweight or lighter weight. Another example too, if you're messing with the tank, there's a combat steel alder wall here, but then inside of that there is open air space right now. I tended to fill this actually in with nice blocks, but it's weight again, and it's just. And I'm thinking all the sacrifices already, like, hey, I don't have a floor on the front part of the tank, and I'm not doing this and I'm not doing that, and it's like, man, it's still it's rough. And this tank actually, this is kind of a weird little comparison, but older tank I made, the Demos heavy tank. Let me find that. I was taking a look at this one, and I mean, like, this was, what is this thing? It's size class 2 combat steel built tank, and it does have some extra layers of protection in places. But I mean, it still has a interior and all that fun stuff. And I was looking at the weight on it, and it is 251 tons. And it needs 4 quantum cores plus the other stuff. And that actually raises up to like close to 260 tons on this tank, and it's only running vanilla default weapon limit guns on it. Now this one's running 42 turrets, 3 of those being artillery, and it weighs 286 tons, and it's, I mean, physically far bigger looking tank than the Demos too. But that's just what I've been trying to do to make this thing lightweight, and how its damage mitigation is intended to work is, obviously, I think I explained this before too, but like these front turrets here would be like the first thing the AI shoots at, and there's a lot of room up here to where the interior space is, and this can get blown up a lot, and you're not going to lose functionality of the tank. Now, I don't know, if how this will exactly play out yet, and I guess we'll have to find that out. But of course, I would want to add more armor layers here if I could, but again, it's weight. And this is combat steel up in front here too, and this whole wall. Just trying to, but I'm hoping the damage that you see on the tank would be up here and nowhere around over here. That's kind of the point of it, really. We'll see how the sides do, and if you take much damage on the side. I guess it depends, what kind of situation you get yourself into, but and how you pilot the tank. But that's kind of how it is sitting. But what I was thinking, like if you did get this tank and you added some more quantum cores and throw in some more generators, obviously you could do upgrade the turrets, to better versions. But you could also mess around with hover engines, and you could place thrusters in here. I don't like to do that myself, because I would consider any thruster I placed in here buried. And it's a plausibility thing. I don't like to do it, but I'm saying if you're going to tinker with the tank, you could do that. And, so you could add more quantum cores. You could do this. You can mess around with RCS more, the weapon loadout. There's just a lot of different things I think you could do. And also, like I was explaining, you could make it tougher by adding armor in, certain places. Especially like, maybe like another even layer across over here somewhere, and armor these things off. And I'm just doing everything I can to keep this thing at this, as light as I can for what it is, without like going to like just switching it fully to hardened steel. It's mostly combat steel still. It's just there's a lot of things I had to change to lighten it up. And that gets it to this performance that you see here. Now it can scoot across the mountains and get around. All right, it's not like super whizzy or anything though. But I think the RCS did help that with, like, I'm able to pull the front end off the ground now, so you're not hitting the stuff near as easy, and allows you to glide up over the mountains and stuff a lot better. And it's just a platform to carry a whole lot of turrets, really. That hopefully the idea in the damage that it would take if you got in like something that did a lot of damage to you would be fine. So you just drive away like it's another day and still have most of your turrets intact. But with this much firepower, I also think POI fights might be reduced in their time. So therefore, you'd probably take less damage back as well, I'm hoping. And then we'll have to see how the actual game itself handles running this much turrets on an HV. I mean, I've never done anything close to this. Maybe some other authors have, but I can't say I've necessarily seen them, or at least in action. So I don't know how this is exactly going to work out. It's fun trying. But I will say, I mean, if you're building, and the SVs are going to be a big thing too, it's like, I kind of half wonder whether it's worthwhile to build like a heavy hull. And like with an SV, the big problem that I think both HVs and SVs have is the thruster performance is not good enough. I think it needs to be a third higher, or even 50% higher. And I think that would make a lot more things viable, and you could not have them so big. It's just, with the SVs, it was self-defeating too. I tried a SV using combat steel, and I probably didn't have the ideal, I know I didn't have the ideal setup in thrusters, but still, it got so sluggish so fast, with the weight and the stuff, and it's just like, man, these thrusters, they should have more performance to them. And I did do a recheck as well on the MCRN Scorpion. And so this is like the updated version. I didn't put this to the workshop yet, but I suppose I might as well just update it. But I was just waiting to see if things were finalized. Now this basically has the newer thrusters installed on it, and that's about it. Um, Now, when I first built this, it did do 50 in all directions. Um, and it maneuvers all right, but it now does 40 in all directions. So I believe when the thruster model was changed, they also nerfed the thruster power on that some, which, well, sucks. um, so yeah, that's yeah, I don't like that, but I mean, I don't know. This tank was all about trying to be like light but sturdy, I guess. So I mean, trying to do damage mitigation, and I think it worked too because the I didn't get in a lot of fights with this, but when I did, it was this stuff up here that pretty much got hit, and that's what it was for. So that's cool, but it was also kind of noted that you can get stuck easy sometimes with the twigs and stuff too. So with the open front end like that. So this one doesn't have the open front end; it's kind of a blunt front end. But yeah, I don't know. Uh, that's kind of where it's at now. Name I've got picked out for it is Phalanx Siege Tank right now, and I don't know if it was a suggestion, and I like it, and I think it's somewhat fitting. I like the siege part of it because of the artillery and kind of what it is, but I don't know about my wording here. So I. It doesn't give me a nice valid model number like I normally like to do. Like a heavy weapons platform or whatever. Um, and I don't like just the word siege there. I think that's kind of, yeah. So I'm trying to think of something. No, I would just call it like siege tank, right? But that's ST. And unfortunately, I use ST for starter on a whole bunch of past creations. So that would be confusing as all get up. So I can't do that. And that's, I'm not sure what to exactly call it for a model number. There's a lot of good names suggested for this too. I don't know. For some reason, I just kind of latched onto that first one, and I thought, yeah, it feels right. It feels appropriate. I didn't really like the whole Zeus thing. Yeah, Zeus. Yeah, I don't know. So that's where it's at, and I'll probably get this to the workshop sometime this week. I want to give it a few days yet, though, and play around with it some more. And obviously, I got to finish up some LCDs, and I don't know. I'm just trying to find the right balance of armor and power without in my way of seeing things a little bit like cheating by having like extra thrusters that wouldn't have big outflows and stuff. I get, you could do that, and I've done that on a couple creations. I think I did something like that on the Anubis too, but it was a 6 block range. But since then, I just stopped doing that because to me it just seems like that would never work. It just would burn up the inside of your thing and cause a lot of problems, and for the plausibility aspect of things. So that's kind of where I view. But obviously, if you do decide to try this tank, once it gets to the workshop, you can certainly mess with it and customize it and add more hover engines and things and thrusters and RCS and quantum cores and generators, and you just mess with it. Because I'm sure it could be enhanced. So anyway, that is that, and I'll shut up about that. And oh no, where did I go? Where was that carrier? Looks like this way. Okay. Let's put away the multi-tool here. So this is by Dagmar 2001, and basically it's kind of like taking he wanted to make this look like it was more planetary and be set up more for planetary landings. And so we added in these big extensions out here with a bunch of thrusters in there to give it considerably more lift. And I was kind of like looking around a little bit earlier trying to figure out some other modifications. Actually, I think this is modified too or a lot more lift. And this is Reforged Eden, by the way. This works in Reforged Eden. So that is one thing to note. Yeah, more lifting thrust over there. Trying to remember the exact place I had everything originally, but yeah, it is definitely well, it was a big ship, and it's a little bit bigger yet, and but it's got way more lift thrust. And then I was checking out, and there's some modifications done in the bridge. So you've got like this emergency thruster, high gravity thrusters, and we'll turn on high performance. Emergency defense, activate, see what's all up. All right. But anyway, this is pretty cool. So, and you're probably wondering, hey, that's Reforged Eden, really? How is that possible? Okay, well, take a look at the CPU. It's actually, it's so weird. When I show it here, it's using 6.1 million CPU, but it actually has 14.6 million CPU available because of 72 quantum cores. But it doesn't need that many. So I think that quantum core count could certainly go down. I don't know by how much yet, but quite a bit. But that gives you room for other stuff too. So I don't know. Anyway. I thought I would check this out. Actually, let's give it a flight too here a minute. So we got all the thrusters on right now. Let me make sure you're fueled up. Yep. All right. I'm not on a high gravity planet right now, but so yeah, that's kind of like a mobile airstrip now set up for planetary landings. Now, I mean, if you obviously the size class on this is very high, but it was already anyway. So I mean, I think if this was size class 59, it doesn't. Yeah, you could put some RCS on here too and see what that does. But no, that's pretty cool. This is a massive ship. If you haven't seen this one before in a video, I hope. But anyway, that is very cool. I don't know. I don't think this is on the workshop. But yeah, if it could be definitely released on the workshop as a modded version and whatnot. And that is really cool, man. I appreciate you doing that and sending me this. That's slick. I guess I don't know all the other changes. Obviously, I've seen those the thrusters up front and the switch and the bridge, and obviously the big thruster pods on the sides. But I don't at the time know if you did any other like major modifications in places. And so yes, but anyway, that's really cool. And that's about all I got today. Next build I probably do after kind of final touches on that tank is probably again trying to revisit a SV. I've seen the bombs work in action, kind of cool. I was kind of doing an assessment in my head to see how worthwhile that would be in the gameplay as I foresee it, and it's could be worthwhile. They did do a lot of damage, so if you're like going after POIs and stuff, you're flying by quick and not taking many hits and dropping some bombs like that, I could see that working out pretty good for some things. But again, I think the factor would be a shielded POI. I don't think that alone would handle it, but maybe those alone, depending on how much CPU they cost. I've never checked into that and all that fun stuff with barrage of say other turrets or something with it. So when you're not only are you dropping bombs, but you're shooting it with other stuff on your flybys. So and then maybe a later haul and have definitely dependent on shield, or just try to get the strength where you think you're going to get hit the most, which I would say on that style attack, actually probably from the from the rear end, maybe, unless you're, well, I don't know. I have to play. Maybe not. Maybe on the front too. I'm not sure. But anyway, um, it's a lot of fun experimenting. Although I do wish, performance of HVSV thrusters increased with no other side effects, such as more CPU or anything. Just increase the speed by about a third to a half, and I think it would be kind of fun again. It's kind of miserable right now. It really is. It's kind of miserable. A fun factor and disappointing performance and links you go to kind of chase your tail, and it's not that fun. And people kind of want them to feel good, in game. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of different options on what you build, and I went extreme, so I was just seeing what you could do. But anyway, y'all have yourself a good day. I will talk to you later.